Hello, hello to all of you out there. Come on into the webinar room. You are very welcome. And we are very happy that you are here today. And we're going to wait just a couple minutes until everybody that is going to join us today is in the webinar room and we can get started. But I'm going to take that opportunity. So first, if you have a moment and you want to type it in that chat over there on the right-hand side, type in your name and where you are logging in from. We like to see where everybody is joining us. I had people from Africa and France and like all around the world. It was really, really cool. Hi, Reed, New York, and Ronald, Florida, Jim, Cornfield where? Alan, Charlotte. Oh, goodness. Wow. Yay. Sarini from Mexico. Awesome. Baja. Yes, excellent. Rob and New Jersey, and Sharish from North Carolina. Let's do one fast. Yo Sung from Ridgewood. Awesome. Well, welcome to all of you guys. And I'm going to take another opportunity here while we're waiting for a few more people to join us and pop this up. This will cover up your screen, but then if you want to lower it, there's just a little close button underneath it. Just click that and it'll close it. I'm going to take this moment to promote our brand new private community, Thrive with Viome. This is a space where some very amazing people, nearly 2,000 of them now, gather and share support for each other on their health journey. And you also have your Viome experts in there as well as me. I'm Lisa Shomo, head of community here at Viome, and I am your host in this space. So just click on that link down there, answer a couple of questions, and I can admit you right away. We just finished an amazing 30-day health challenge where everybody lined up their actionable goals, their healthy habits, tracking for measuring success, and of course, more understanding of their Viome results and recommendations and how to fit these into their health journey. So please come and join us. You are welcome. We will love to have you in there. All right, so my plug's over, so we can get this webinar officially started. We are in Men's Health Month for June, where as last month, we took a look at the energy, cellular health, and longevity from a female perspective. I really wanted us to take a look at this from the male health perspective because it is as unique as the female side. And I just read in this Harvard Health report the other day that metabolic syndrome is on the rise, which of course boosts the risks of many other health issues. And today, we're going to explore how this directly impacts male health specifically and the strategies that you can use to optimize your health. And so, with that, I will introduce Dr. Grant Antoine, who is our clinical lead on the Viome Precision Nutrition Science team. And not only is he our expert on understanding underlying biological causes for health issues as a naturopathic doctor, he also loves to focus on practical actionable health insights through data, technology, and nutrition. And he also happens to be a dude. Super handy.
Yeah, okay. I've been signed off on the equipment. Yeah, that's
exactly. And so there you go. And I can go ahead and let you get started, Grant.
Great. Yeah.
I think Grant froze for just a minute. Oh, hey, Grant, you froze for just a minit. You want to back up and try again?
Am I on?
Yes, now you're on. We can hear you now. Uh-oh. He'll be back in a minute. Don't worry. He'll be back in just a minute. Sometimes that happens when our bandwidth just goes on the fritz. We have to come on and log back in, but he'll be back pretty soon. So Jim is in Lake Forest, California, and Richard in Georgia, USA, and Gustavo is from Florida, and Robert from Houston. Looks like you lost me. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry for that pause. That was on my end. Apologies. Apologies for that. And Grant should be back very soon. So we can restart the program. Sorry about that. Do you know, can anybody note in the chat where you lost us in the connection? And we can make sure that we can back up and get that. Hang on 1 second here. I'm going to see if I can connect with Grant and get him back on. Okay, we should be going good. Everybody hanging in there. And we have Christy. We have a female logging in for the male health, which is a great way to look at it. I definitely am interested in male health. I have 2 males in my life, my husband and my son. So there you go. Whoops. Yep. Whoops. All right. Let's see if we can get Grant back here in just a second, and then we can get started. So as you know, somebody who is married, I have my husband of about 21 years, and Grant will probably talk in just a minute about how longevity for men who are married or are in long time relationships can be extended more than those who are not attached, who do not have marriages or long time relationships, which I think is pretty interesting in itself. And it doesn't really matter what that relationship is at all. But at the same time, if you can, find that partner to spend the rest of your life with, it can help support you, that person, and then also the relationship itself support you with better longevity. All right, let me see if I can get Grant here, because we should be good to go. And boom. Sorry about this pause, folks. Every once in a while, we have just a little bit of a snafu with the broadcast wavelength here. There he is. Hey, whoa.
Is this thing working? Oh my God.
Yeah, I went offline. It's not just you. I went offline too. So it must be like, a solar flare or something like that.
No, I hope everyone got sunscreen on.
Hey, so I just wanted to hop in and say Mario just asked about, he just turned 41 and his profile is still showing 40 years old. So the only reason for that, Mario, is that is how old you were when you took your last test. When you get a new test, when you retest, we will update your age. And so that's the only reason why that's kind of solidified in time. Excellent. Very good. All right. So we didn't even get started. So we don't have any catching up to do. So go for it.
All right. I'm coming in loud and clear. Mic
Yes.
check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Sorry about the interruption. Hopefully we're good. I did a hard reset, so we should be good. So yeah, what are we talking about? We're talking about foundations. We're talking about immune health. We're talking about metabolic health. And really at the center of that, we think about your mitochondria, right? We hear a lot of talk about mitochondria, but also your microbiome. So we just want to cover the basics today and check in and make sure that, if we're interested in the prevention of chronic disease, if we're interested in longevity, then we need to be paying attention to certain aspects of our health. And while all the NAD supplements and red light therapies in the world, all this biohacking, that's all there. But if you don't have the foundations for health, then you don't have anything. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today, and really how you can be paying attention to certain things in your day-to-day, and then how Viome might be able to help you along that journey. So energy and metabolism, why does it matter? Cellular energy, metabolic health, these are interrelated. If I step back and if we look at the latest statistics in America, 40% of us men, American men, are obese. 40% of men in America, and that's 18 years or older. That's including the young studs that are out there playing football, sports, everything else. 40% of us are obese. 50% of us have hypertension.
Yeah.
right? So a huge risk factor for heart disease. And about a quarter of us are actually meeting the guidelines for physical activity. So for aerobic and resistance training. So we're not moving, we're overeating, we're getting fat as a result and unhealthy as a result. And we need to be doing something about this, right? In this modern age, with all this information, all the tools and technology we have, there's really no excuse. So when we talk about metabolic health, we're really talking about cellular health, right? And you're like, oh, what do you mean, Dr. Grant? It's whether it's a muscle cell, a brain cell, a immune cell, it's that mitochondrial health that matters. And there's a couple of reasons for that. But really, those mitochondria help us produce energy. They help us produce energy for the cell. And
ATP.
yeah, if we talk about ATP and kind of this, the energetic currency of the cell, if the cells don't have the energy to do their work, then there's dysfunction, right? And let me go to this next slide.
Yeah.
Energy connection. Yeah. So if there is dysfunction at the mitochondrial, the cellular level, then that's going to translate from the cell to the tissue, from the tissue to the organ, to the whole body. And when we think about mitochondria, they're really sensitive to oxidative stress, right? So they have built the tools over time to be resilient and resolve this oxidative stress. And in fact, they're so good at it that our cells have become reliant on those mitochondria to handle that oxidative stress for us. And when I say oxidative stress, I want you to be thinking about like free radicals, damage from free radicals. And so we really rely on these guys, not just for the energy, but to resolve the oxidative stress. And if we have high levels of oxidative stress, that's damaging our DNA, that's putting us at risk for cancers and dysfunctions, cellular senescence. Again, the job that the cell's meant to perform, it cannot perform. So we start to see dysfunction there. And it's outside of that, the cell starts to react and say, oh, I've got too much stress. It starts to send out signals. Now that starts an inflammatory cascade as this cell is asking for backup and help from the rest of the body and cells around it. So it's really starts at the core with this mitochondria and that cell. And so mitochondrial health is metabolic health, is whole body health. Really coming back to resilience and stress and stressors. We're not just talking about mental emotional stress, while that's very important, but any stressor really, whether it's an illness, a physical stress, even exercise to a degree, but that's going to be a positive stress if we're recovering and responding to that appropriately. But we need these mitochondria and we need that metabolism to be supporting our cells and tissues. So we do have this resilience to all stressors. Really it's so we can respond appropriately and recover. And this is why this all matters.
Hey, Grant, can I jump in here just quick? I know you're still on a high level here, but we're talking about metabolic health, cardiovascular health, and just like systems biology. How and does any of this impact, as a woman, I have a husband, libido, sexual health, right? This is good for us ladies to know. So was it too soon to introduce that, or are you going to be talking about that?
I think most of us would agree it's never too soon to introduce that. Yeah, metabolic health is sexual health. And you're absolutely right. And for all the men in the room, that's usually our primary concern, right? Are we going to die? And if we're alive, can we be men?
Right.
Absolutely. And, I don't think a lot of guys, I think a lot of attention gets placed on testosterone and hormones when it comes to libido and erectile dysfunction and sexual health. And while it does play a role, metabolic health is just as important. And especially when it comes to insulin resistance diabetes, like that same damage that occurs to our kidneys. You think about a diabetic, right? What are the things that start to fail on them? It's their kidneys, right? So they end up on dialysis. Their eyesight, they lose poor vision. They start to get poor circulation in their extremities, right? And now you're looking at amputations and that can cascade. But the exact same damage occurs to our number one member, right? To our organs, our tissues. So it's going to influence or damage those small blood vessels that control that blood flow, damage them and have a downstream impact. And it's a really big issue actually in diabetes management, and keeping us going and functioning thoroughly. So yeah, absolutely. This matters in multiple ways. Yeah, it's a good call out. So just to summarize what we're talking about today. So we've already kind of started to touch on mitochondrial function, why that matters, how that leads oxidative stress and inflammation. Really at the center of all this is the microbiome, which might be a surprise, but it really is at the core of all things metabolic. And then we'll touch on some hormonal balance, right? Because all the guys, we want to know about testosterone. If I can go to the next slide.
Yep.
And again, like, Viome, I'm just going to touch on this as we go. Viome's got your back, right? So in the app, we have scores and assessments for all these areas we're going to be talking about. So when you do a Viome test, if you haven't already, Viome's looking at this. We're thinking hard about it. Again, our mission's to prevent chronic disease, early detection of disease, right? And so we're really tuned in to all these things we're going to be talking about. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the microbiome. If I can get over here. So yeah, the gut's the engine room of metabolism and energy. What that means, if you think of, I don't know, the train engine in the old time movies, they get the engine and they're throwing coal or wood on the fire to really keep that motor going. You can think of the relationship between the microbiome and the liver as this engine room. And really, you've got to remember that everything that occurs in the gut, all that digestion and all the metabolism that takes place, everything has to go directly to the liver. And there's a specialized circulatory system that connects the intestines directly to the liver. So nothing goes directly into circulation. There are some caveats there where if you go through lymph tissue and it can get dumped in, but for the majority of nutrients and activities that occur in the gut, it has to report to the liver. And what's the liver do for us? It helps us detoxify. It helps control our blood sugars. That's its main job. So the activities of the microbiome directly influence the liver and our metabolic health. And a couple examples there: conversion of bile acids in the gut by microbes send signals to our liver. The fermentation of fiber, obviously, for the production of short chain fatty acids. Butyrate, we talk about all the time. That signals to the liver. Metabolism of polyphenols in the gut. So you think the colors and things in your fruits and vegetables, the reds, the blues, the purples, those are actual molecules that the microbiome will convert. That speaks some of those directly to our mitochondria. If you think about urolithin A as one of these, Akkermansia feeds on this. It's a really popular microbe that you see around. So all these signals are having a downstream effect. And it's not just about signaling, they're actually changing our genetics. The liver cells and our body cells, the gene expression will change depending on the signals it's receiving from the microbiome. So if you think about that a little bit, microbes are controlling our genes and how we are functioning. That's kind of next level, right? We don't really give microbes that credit. So we've got this metabolic organ that's individual and unique to all of us, that's living inside our gut, that is either helping us or hurting us when it comes to our health. And if it's not helping us, then all that burden gets picked up by the liver, by the pancreas. You think about insulin secretion. So our organs have to carry this additional weight to respond. And it can really be an uphill battle. And this is why we see in the studies, you hear it all the time, oh, well, I'm doing everything right. I'm not losing weight. I'm falling down, I'm exercising, all these things. Why, everyone around me, they're losing weight, but I'm not. Well, a lot of that has to do with your individual microbiome, the health of that, and those signals that are coming through.
Exactly.
So if it's not, I like to think that we refer to engines. And so if we think of the microbiome as an engine, you can have a Ferrari or high performing machine that we're putting in clean fuels, and or you can have like an old beat up Volkswagen Beetle that's like sputtering and backfiring and just struggling to get up a hill
Or does
or down
anybody
the road.
remember Yugos?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Does anybody remember Yugos? That was in the 80s too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, I remember. So if it is sputtering and doing these things, we're going to see downstream effects, right? We see increased intestinal permeability, so we see more leaky gut, is what we refer to it. So we open up that membrane. The gut is the outside world. It's supposed to be really contained, but if that barrier's opened up, things are getting across that shouldn't. That's going to activate our nervous system, our immune system. So we see fatigue, brain fog, this silent inflammation, and then imbalances, not just in testosterone, but thyroid health. And we talk a lot about GLP-1 these days. That's an actual paracrine hormone that very important for satiety and blood sugar control. So it's a downstream cascade that we want to try to control. And if we can be paying attention to our microbiome, be fostering it, shaping it, and affecting the activity that's occurring, then we can really reverse that story and turn that fatigue into energy, that brain fog into good concentration, focus, make it anti-inflammatory, right? Butyrate would be a prime example. Butyrate, that short chain fatty acid I mentioned earlier, is very anti-inflammatory. It's great for our gut health, and we can get these hormones balanced out for ourselves. Because we're talking about the dudes today, we just want to talk a little bit about male-specific challenges, right? Stress, we tend to internalize, right? Stress, we self-isolate. We don't talk it out. Women are really good about community and getting together and talking about their problems and airing out the dirty laundry and all this. That's not the dude's way. Like we carry the weight on our own, and we've got to process that a lot. We also tend to self-medicate when it comes to stress. So whether it's stress eating, you go to those sugary foods, those comfort foods, whether it's alcohol, sometimes you just want to zone out, and maybe now you're going to the television or the video game, staying up late. We see these issues specifically in men. High protein heavy diets, we want protein. Muscle building is very important. We want to be getting that protein in, but we need to be paying attention to the rest of our diet, right? One, it's got to be high quality protein. We need to be thinking about this. Anything that's processed meats are a carcinogen, right? They've been classified as carcinogens. So your sausages, your deli meats, even, you think, oh, you're doing good, Dr. Grant, I'm getting my turkey. Well, you need to be paying attention to those levels. They put a bunch of things in those deli meats to be able to slice it and make that nice cold cut sandwich. There's a lot of stuff that has to go on. If you ever try to go get a turkey, from Thanksgiving and try to slice it, like it's almost impossible, right? You end up with these like chunks.
But it's delicious.
So that's a lot of processing that goes into. Yeah, amazing. So that's what we want, though. We want those whole food, high quality proteins. We need to be looking at how much fat's coming along. So we want lean proteins. If we're eating animal proteins, we need to think about taking advantage of plant-based proteins and how we can put those into our rotations. Especially the protein powders these days, which have a mix of different plants to make sure you're getting a good amino acid composition. There's no reason not to incorporate those into your diet. And really this ratio between fiber and protein. It turns out that a lot of the negative outputs from the microbiome come from protein fermentation and metabolizing amino acids, right? So if we have too much protein coming in, or we're not digesting it properly, you're going to see more protein make its way to the colon. And if it's a low fiber environment, then microbes have to make a decision. They don't have that fiber to ferment. They're going to have to go to that protein, those amino acids, to survive. When they metabolize those proteins and amino acids, bad things happen downstream, right? It's bad for our kidneys. It could be that oxidative stress we're talking about, bad for our blood vessels, on and on and on. So be thinking about, hey, anytime I have protein, where's my fiber? I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Alcohol, we all know alcohol has a very negative effect on the microbiome, especially when it's excessive. And on top of that, it's really a surplus of energy and calories, right? If guys are familiar, if you're locked in with nutrition, you know, carbs and protein have about 4 calories per gram of energy. Fat is 9. Alcohol has 7. It's closer to fat than carbohydrates. So you're getting, and that's the alcohol molecule. So you're getting the calories from the sugar. So what if you're having a cocktail or you know, an old fashioned or a beer, you're getting the carbohydrates and those calories, but the alcohol itself has even more calories, and then that gets converted in the liver and downstream effects. But anyway,
Wow.
causing additional stress, interrupting our sleep and our sleep cycles. So you get low quality sleep with the alcohol. So, and then exercise overuse. I think I just touched on this. Maybe that's not such an issue for, you know, your average American, right? We're not moving enough, but we do need to be paying for those that are working out. We need to be paying attention to recovery. We need to find a balance. Recovery is just as important as training. And anyone that's really stalled out, if you're a weightlifter and you can't get past that, you know, 3 rep max, whatever it is, your squat, your deadlift, taking a week off, like you can really help you break through those plateaus, right?
Wow.
So recovery is huge and it's beneficial. So so just a couple of male specific issues that we're talking about there.
I never thought
And then
about
when
how like very top athletes, like people who do lots of high intensity training, like that can actually prematurely age their body to some degree, correct?
yeah, because like we said, it is a stressor, right? And
Yeah.
it's a good stressor if we're providing the body the appropriate nutrition and we're providing enough recovery time, and that response to the stressor is what's important. So yeah, we need to give the building blocks to the body and those cells to respond, come back stronger and more resilient, and keep going. Yeah. So yeah, you can definitely, and I think that in my mind, I think of like these marathon runners that really traditionally would do just way too many miles, you know, per week. And it's shown that it's actually detrimental for performance, right? And being able to break, you don't need to be doing, you know, 100, 200 miles a week to be a marathon runner. You need to be looking at, hey, can I do shorter interval, higher intensity, you know, protect my joints kind of deal. And
The
and
bones in
mobility is
your
important. We'll
feet.
talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shoes. But back to the gut microbiome. So yeah, nutrient synthesis. So gut bacteria that can produce branched chain amino acids. That needs to be balanced out right. Too many, you know, a few branched chains are good. Too many actually disrupt glucose control, blood sugar regulation that you see there. The gut bacteria, they can produce a lot of B vitamins. Some of them are kind of nominal, but folate in particular, we can really crank out folate. I think about a third to a half, somewhere in there, of our folate can be produced by the gut bacteria. Vitamin K is another one that's really important. We can't synthesize that ourselves. We tend to get it from leafy greens, but bacteria can synthesize this in the colon. That's really important. And then we've touched on blood sugar regulation. So when it comes to blood sugar or blood fats, you know, think cholesterol, then the microbiome is going to have a starring role there. And then for detox, the liver is really good about it. That's what it's there for, to help us detoxify, right? So things are coming through the liver, and really what it's doing is throwing tags on these things. So you've got toxins and hormones and medications coming through, and the liver cells are processing this, and they say, oh, you know what? I need to throw this tag here for removal. One group of tags makes it more water soluble, so it'll put it back in the bloodstream, so your kidneys will remove it. Others, it'll put tags on and send it to the gut, so the gut, so you'll poop it out, right? But they've been basically labeled for removal and put out to the trash. Well, that's when everything's working appropriately. Your bacteria can actually take those tags back off. So your body's trying to get rid of toxins, and heavy metals and mold are a great example of this. So your body's trying to flush all this stuff out. Then the microbes are like, oh, no, tag off. I'm going to take that tag off. When they do that, then those toxins recirculate, and we kind of start, you know, this chasing our tails a little bit, and really have an issue with getting that trash taken out. Fibers can help with this. Fibers and binders help bind onto those toxins regardless of the microbial activity and help assist with the removal and in the pooping out of the stuff. And remember those toxins, we've already talked about oxidative stress, so toxins,
Right.
oxidative stress, inflammation, dysfunction, and this is the cycle. I'm going to hammer that home. And the reason being inflammation. Yeah. So another score we tap in on. Yeah, we're looking at your gut diversity, which is kind of a indicator of microbiome health. We're looking at gut dysbiosis, and then we give scores here for inflammaging. We think about this silent inflammation, chronic inflammation as really the trigger for all things, the big bad. I love that. But when we think about chronic disease, I think a great example is cardiovascular disease, right? You see these folks walking in around with elevated cholesterol levels, but then you go and you look at their arteries and they're squeaky clean, right? And this kind of highlights the fact that cardiovascular disease and arterial plaques, it's not just about the cholesterol.
Levels,
it's important. It's a part of that recipe. It's an ingredient, but you have to have these others, and inflammation is a starring role in that. So if you don't have the oxidative stress and the inflammation, then that cholesterol can be a smaller concern in some folks. And this is where personalization comes in. But for Viome, yeah, we're checking with Inflammageing and report out that with our tests. Next section. Where are we at?
Stress hormones and metabolic decline.
Yeah, so if we shift away from the microbiome for a minute and talk about another foundation with managing stress and sleep, there's a couple of things we want to highlight. Cortisol in particular can really have a negative impact on our metabolic health. Cortisol, you probably heard of fight or flight, right? Most of you guys, fight or flight. Either we're gonna fight for our lives or we're gonna run for our lives. And, imagine way back when we came across a bear or a tiger in the woods, out in the wild. We've got to be ready to take serious action, right? So cortisol is one of these hormones that enables us to be able to fight that fight or to run like hell and get away. And really what it does, it mobilizes energy substrates. It brings sugar into the bloodstream so that your muscles and your body can respond immediately. So it's like, hey, all hands on deck. I got to fight for my life. I need everything available now, right? It's going to shut down the gut, right? Because right now I'm not worried about that meal in my belly anymore. I might be dead in 5 minutes. I need to cut off the blood flow to my gut, and any energy I'm wasting in the gut, I need to move that blood to my muscles and my extremities so I can fight and run. And again, I need to mobilize that carbohydrate so I can do this work. So that's when cortisol's good, but when it comes to stress and poor sleep, we can activate this same fight or flight system and cause this chronic elevation of cortisol that then we start to see these downstream effects. So if you're not turning down that signal from cortisol, right? Again, it's just meant to be momentary in those acute situations, but if it's persisting, then we see all these downstream negative effects and can really sabotage energy and metabolism, like the slide says. Interestingly, sleep, we kind of traditionally have just kind of poo-pooed on sleep. Oh, I can get through. I just need a couple hours. Give me 4 hours. Right. I'm good to go. Or it's like, oh, that's all you need is 4 hours. Like, get up, get your cup of coffee, hit the road. Let's get it done. But anything that disrupts sleep affects cortisol. It affects blood sugar. It affects blood pressure. They've done studies where just they take these cohorts, they put them in a perfect sleep environment, and they let them sleep for a week. And then they give them one night of disrupted sleep. I think it's just 2 hours or 3 hours. It's something like instead of an 8-hour sleep, I think they get 6 hours, which some people would call a good night's sleep. Then they do muscle biopsies for the regular folks and the sleep deprived folks. And they see, hey, how much insulin does it take for these muscle cells to respond to the blood sugar? It takes 5 to 10 times more insulin for those cells to do the same job that they normally do. And that's just 2 hours of one night, sleep deprivation. So
Oh
if you think about all
no.
these guys, shift workers are folks that, maybe they've got a sleep apnea. Maybe you've got young kids that are waking up in the night. That's my issue. Maybe you've got back pain, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter what's affecting the sleep, but if it's broken, if it's poor quality, if it's not enough, all these things have a downstream effect. And then what do? We get a bad night's sleep. We wake up the next morning. We go for that latte. We go for that energy
Okay.
drink. Lots
Sugar.
of caffeine, lots of sugar,
Mhm.
right? Now
Mhm.
we're on the roller coaster of sugar crashes, and it's really this perfect storm. And again, we start chasing our tails because you get this low energy,
Mhm.
move to the caffeine and sugar. Often at night, we want to unwind, so we turn to alcohol and things to get through, to
Yeah,
cope. And then we get shitty sleep again, and the cycle repeats, right? It's just kind of what
absolutely.
we do. So we want to break that cycle and be paying attention.
So, hey, Grant.
Yep.
So I had a teacher at one time who said to me, sleep is overrated. And I kind of lived by that for a long time. And finally, my husband and I, this is when I was younger, but my husband and I were both diagnosed with moderate sleep apnea about a year ago. And that can obviously, like you've been talking about, be a major impact on your metabolic health all the way around. We were both able to get CPAPs and we sleep like babies. And it's like, it's amazing. Like just what you were saying, when you wake up having a good
It's a
quality
game changer.
sleep, you feel like you can take on the world. And you're
Yeah.
like, what would I even think I was getting good sleep before? And we both weren't really, we're okay, but it's amazing how much when you feed your body that necessary oxygen during that rest and digest period, right? When the cortisol is shut off, right? And you can just like take on the world. So if you snore, if you wake up just feeling awful after being asleep for 8 hours, get tested. There's an easy at-home test that you can do overnight through your doctor's office, and then they're usually able to diagnose you from that data. And then you can get some good sleep, and then if you can get your body to a place where it doesn't need a CPAP anymore, then you're all good to go. But it's just air, so it's not like you're taking any drugs or anything like that.
Yeah, that's right. If I was going to skip a slide, we'll go back to the seesaw, but you're absolutely right. And again, it doesn't matter what's impacting your sleep. But if you have an unidentified apnea, an obstructive apnea, then, I can't recommend enough. If you've been told, everyone snores like every once in a while, right? You get a,
Sure.
hard day, or whatever. But if you're told you snore regularly, or if you're overweight, then you need to be thinking about this. And I'm going to summarize that in a little bit when we're wrapping up. But there's just so many tools out there today. And again, why it's important, it's this circadian rhythm. So our sleep times, our sleep schedule, the timing of our meals, our exposure to daylight, all these things help our body create our biorhythms that really influence our metabolism and our function throughout the day. And the body likes to be prepared. Our body likes to plan, know what's coming, and be prepared for that. And that's why these rhythms are important. And even with digestion, if we're eating on a regular interval, regular schedule, then the body's ready for that. And it's going to prime in those stomach acids and digestive enzymes. They're going to be ready to go, right? The same thing with sleep. You're going to see this conversion. Cortisol is going to go down. Melatonin starts to come up. That's going to help ensure a good anti-inflammatory, get your deep sleep, get your REM, really flush things out, recover. It's these cycles and patterns. And when it comes to testosterone, like on the previous slide, if you're not getting that high quality sleep, then those signals aren't going to be there for the body to release that testosterone in the morning, right? And if you've ever experienced morning wood, this is when the body is releasing that testosterone. Usually first thing in the morning. I think usually before 10 a.m. It can vary from guy to guy, but those signals are important. So if you find like you're not waking up, with the occasional, friend in the sheets, like you need to be paying attention. That's a good signal that, hey, like things aren't working appropriately. Now that declines with age to a degree, but you should still be having this experience, those early morning erections on some regular interval.
Mhm.
But stress and testosterone specifically, We notice this relationship as cortisol goes up, testosterone goes down. And it's not a hard and fast biomarker, so I wouldn't, really pay a lot of attention or give too much focus to the numbers themselves and this ratio, but it really highlights the fact that there is a relationship, that cortisol and stress matters. It has downstream implications for men's health. Testosterone going to be a prime example, and definitely on sexual health. I'll go back up here. My back, yeah. So we talked already about cortisol, what it does. And again, you can think of cortisol, it's a good thing when it's appropriate. Like the fight or flight I mentioned, first thing in the morning, the blood sugar's low, you've been fasting overnight and sleeping, you need a little kickstart. You can think of cortisol as the little primer, like on the lawnmower. Hey, let's push some fuel into the engine so when I crank this thing, it's gonna fire up. That's when cortisol should be highest first thing in the morning. Get that blood sugar going, and then it drops throughout the day. But if it's elevated, if it's constantly elevated, then all this blood sugar is coming into the bloodstream. We start to see insulin resistance because there's so much sugar. You convert from fat burning, you go to carbohydrate metabolism. We see increases in visceral fat specifically, and when we think good fat, bad fat, belly fat and visceral fat around our organs is going to be the bad fat because it's metabolically active, it's inflammatory, it affects our hormones, creates its own hormones. It actually becomes like this little parasite within us, is kind of a weird way to think about it, but it's true. And and again, it affects our hormones, our metabolic health, and our microbiome. I'm going to speed up to the last section because we had some delay. So again, we're checking all this stuff out through your assessments. Here's some mitochondrial scores. And then let's get into the summary page, because this is really the meat and potatoes. Like, hey, what can you do now? Right? We say, hey, all right, all this stuff's important. I know I'm not checked in, but what can I do? And a couple of things to highlight here. One, you've got to have nutrition locked in. You can't outwork a shitty diet at the bottom. That's bottom line. Like, I don't care how hard you're working out and you're running. If you get a shitty diet, you can't outrun that. And you have to have your nutrition in check. It doesn't mean you have to be weighing every bite you eat, or that you can't enjoy the occasional burger or nachos, or whatever your thing is, but you need to be paying attention. So a couple of things that you should be paying attention to. Two, one, just don't take in more energy than what you're burning, right? Mm-hmm. So calories matter and they add up. So we need to be paying attention to that balance. If we're going to have days where we know we're not going to be as active, then we need to be thinking, hey, how can I adjust my intakes today? Maybe I need to cut back on that lunch. Or that dinner, make sure I don't take that snack. And so just, a simple little hack, just be paying attention. Hey, you know what? I know I'm not going to be able to get to the gym today, or whatever my thing is. Let me cut back on a few things. Maybe today's not the day to have that soda or that beer. We mentioned that
lots of online calculators for like if you want to calculate what macros you should get per day, calories and macros and stuff like that. There are tons of calculators like that based on your age, your weight, your fitness level, or activity level and stuff like that.
Viome does all that for you on the back end. When you fill out your questionnaire, we've got an activity survey that we take, and we consider your goals. So on the back end, they're adjusting and calculating your macros. So if you want to build muscle, we're taking that into account. We're trying to maximize the amount of protein you're taking in. If you don't partner with Viome, there's tons of tools and resources out there that you can figure out, hey, how much should I be bringing in? When it comes to protein, though, again, I want you guys to be thinking about that protein fiber ratio. So know your protein number, know what your daily goal is. But from there, know, okay, if I'm taking in that much protein, I need to have X amount of fiber. And really, we're trying to keep that ratio at 2-to-1 at the most. So where it's protein to fiber. We want to be below that 2-to-1 ratio. The closer to 1-to-1 we can get, the better. But most guys aren't going to be able to start off with that, because we're not, like, most of us are eating low fiber diets, and we don't have the microbes and the ability in our gut to help us metabolize and process all that. And so you can get a lot of, start low and slow. But if you're taking in a lot of protein shakes, right? Whatever flavor, whey, plant-based, whatever it is, just make sure you're getting some extra fiber in there. So
Yep.
anytime I have a protein shake, I'm putting in 5 to 10 grams of fiber. I'm good to go. I mean, it's usually like 20 grams of fiber per serving when you're doing those shakes, but be paying attention to that. Again, with diet, swap out the saturated fat. We want to be thinking about healthy fat. So if you're eating animal protein, you want the leaner cuts. If you replace, you know, beef, pork, chicken with fish, all the better. Limit fast food, obviously, limit the junk food, trans fats, all those things. And then really just nuts, seeds, avocados, olive oils, and the fish I mentioned. Also, as always, limit the sugar, treat it like alcohol, right? Enjoy it, but in moderation, but be thinking about, you know, downstream consequences. And alcohol itself, again, moderation. Moving, if you're sedentary, start slow, man. Walking is just fine. It's a start. Especially if you're overweight, you want to be protecting your joints. I hate seeing these guys. They haven't been doing anything. They're ready to jump back in, and you see them out on the roads and the sidewalks, and they're trying to hit it in hardcore, man. And you're not doing yourself any favors there. You know, if you're overweight, all that excess weight, it's going to have an impact on your back, your hips, your joints. You mentioned good shoes. We need to be paying attention to our joints. But walking's just fine. It's a great start. If it's too easy, you know, set some times, throw some hills into the mix. Rucking and weight vests are a great example to be able to get that heart rate up if you're shooting for zone 2. Speaking of zone 2, aerobic exercise should really be our foundation. We want to improve that VO2 max. VO2 max is directly related to our longevity. Zone 2 is that fat burning zone, so really low and slow. You should be able to speak in complete sentences. Again, there's lots of tools out there for you to be able to monitor and make sure that you're staying in zone 2, whether it's an Oura Ring, an Apple Watch, or just your heart rate in general. You can kind of game that. Mobility I want to touch on. Doesn't mean you have to be a yogi doing yoga every day. But hey, let's pay attention to our warm-ups, our cool-downs. Active mobility, I'm a huge fan of, right? So it's not just static stretching where you're holding a position for, 20, 30 seconds, but really maybe think of high knees and lunges and these kind of things, crab walks, duck walks, anyone that was back in the day in football. These help, again, lube those joints, help with the musculature and keep things moving. And movement, it doesn't have to be in the gym, right? So find what works for you. It doesn't have to be in the gym. It doesn't have to be on the mountainside. That's another common, like guys want to get out and hit the trail. But how can we find something that works for us? What's convenient? What can we do on days when we know life's going to rock the boat and it's going to throw us off our rhythms, but what's something we can still get in? There's, again, all kinds of tools and things out there. Sleep, we mentioned sleep. Yeah, you should treat it like it's your superpower. You want to protect it. If you are snoring, you don't have to go to a sleep center to get a sleep study. They have good validated home sleep assessments now that you can get home and get a sleep assessment. But either way, get checked out, see if you have an apnea. If not, great, like you're moving on. But don't let the idea of having to wear the Darth Vader mask keep you from getting tested, right? Knowledge is power. They have all different sizes and types of the ventilators these days for the CPAP. So you can definitely find what works for you. And there's other treatments for sleep apnea, whether they're mouth guards, there's some surgical procedures you might be a candidate for. So don't let the idea of like, hey, you know what? I don't want to wear a CPAP. I'm not going to wear it. I'm not going to get tested.
Yeah.
Don't let that stop you. Get tested. See if you got it, and then talk to your doctor about other options that are available to you.
There's many different types of masks. I use what are called nose pillows, which just basically sit right here. But you can't have a full face mask, and there's also just a nose mask too. So there's lots of variations for you.
Yeah. If that's not a concern, I'm a big, everyone should be tracking their sleep. Whether it's an Oura Ring, Apple, everyone should be checking in. Look at how you can dial in those factors that affect sleep. So your blood sugar, so your meal timing before bed, your sleep hygiene, right? Turning down the lights, screen time, that kind of room temperature was huge for me. I like to wear a lot to bed and never like to wake up cold and put your feet on the cold floor. But now, like, I crank that temperature down. I've seen the impact on my deep sleep that temperature has on my sleep cycles, and it's huge. So Track your sleep, get dialed in, see what works for you. Everyone's different. Alcohol wrecks my sleep. Alcohol, like my wife, man, she has a few drinks and she hits that like 2 hours of deep sleep. It's crazy. She's like the total opposite. So we all have our own individual responses to temperature,
Women.
alcohol, food. Right? Yeah, yeah. But you need to be tracking. And remember, sleep, good high quality sleep is anti-inflammatory. It's going to affect so many things: blood sugar, blood pressure, cardiovascular health, mental health. It's so important. Can't hammer that enough. Stress. Can't remove stress from our lives, but we can change how we respond to it, right? So again, we mentioned the stress eating. If you know you tend to go for that beer or that bowl of ice cream, recognize that, create a plan, have things around that you can replace those things. Maybe replace the eating with some movement, but be paying attention. If you find yourself anxious, irritable, getting angry, getting sad, there's lots of tools and resources out there. There's apps. We talk about mindfulness and breathing. There's counseling. Don't be afraid of that. Again, women are really good about talking it out, but we can be better. We highlighted this in last year's webinar. Yeah.
Yep, right here.
Yeah, really good. We had Jorge Tovar come in, who's a licensed therapist and counselor, talk about the kind of the blocks for men in seeking help for mental health, and the benefits. So huge, right? If you're eating right, you're moving right, and you've got good high quality sleep, that's going to be 75% of the game. But we still need to be paying attention to that 25%. And what I'm talking about is like, for health and stress resilience and stress response. But we still need to be checking in on that mental, emotional health. And, ask any professional athlete how important having your mind right is. In those stressful moments, you have to be able to, what is it? Clear the mechanism. If anyone, baseball fans or Kevin Costner, you have to be able to control this guy upstairs, so that you can perform your best and really respond to life's challenges. So can't underemphasize that or overemphasize that. Sorry.
Great.
Microbiome. How do I close this?
Down at the bottom.
There we go.
Close.
Yeah.
There you go.
Got it. Microbiome and gut health. Don't ignore a little bloating, discomfort, changes in your bowel habits. They really reflect your microbiome and gut health. Again, your microbiome is either working for you or against you. You want to make sure you're leveraging it, so it's helping you and supporting your whole body health. A biome can help you with that. Really, that diet's going to be so important there. But get assessed, whether it's Viome or some other company. Check in on your microbiome and make sure you're paying attention to it. Again, because it's touching on your cognitive health, your cardiovascular health, your immune health, inflammation, you name it, blood sugar, cholesterol. Finally, go get screened, man. Let your medical insurance work for you. You need to know your numbers, check in on your blood work. A lot of people are kind of surprised. We talk about the importance of metabolic health. Your hemoglobin A1C, an indication of your average blood sugar, is a stronger indicator or a predictor of heart disease than LDL cholesterol, right? And it's one of the strongest predictors for cardiovascular disease, neurocognitive disease. So we think about dementia, Alzheimer's, kidney health, which is so important across the board. So again, metabolic health matters. You need to know your numbers. You still need to know your cholesterol. Again, it's an important ingredient in that recipe we talked about. But you can't put your head in the sand. You got to know your numbers. And if you know your biological age, but you don't know your blood sugar or your cholesterol, if you're checking in on your kidney health and cystatin C, another strong indicator for multiple chronic diseases, then I'm not going to say shame on you, but you gotta do the other, right? You can't do one or the other. Same thing with exercise. If you're doing all these supplements and NAD and everything, and you're not hitting the gym, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You got to get these in. But then with the screening, cancer being so important, you got to get screened. PSAs for your prostate. Get that colonoscopy. It's so easy. You get in, you get out. If there is some polyps there, they snip them right there. You're good for 10 years. You don't have to be worrying about this horrible cancer that really can be so devastating. And then, if you smoke, quit. Like, bottom line, like if
Yeah.
you're using a lot of tobacco, nicotine, it's trying to make a comeback with the pouches and all that. It's just bad juju. You gotta stop all that nonsense. Just get moving, get sleeping, get eating right, and get out there and get living. All right, that's my soapbox.
Absolutely. Woo! That's awesome. Oh man. Is that our last note?
I think
Oh,
so.
yes, it is.
Happy Father's Day.
So those of you out there who are celebrating, who are fathers, happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day, Grant. Grant is a father of 3 or 4. I can't remember. 3?
5.
Oh my God. I forgot it was that many.
Yeah.
Grant has a brood. So there you go.
Yeah.
He's got some beautiful kids. So happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there in our audience. And then also I do have a gift for you. I'm going to pop it up here. We can offer everybody who's on the call today. I just popped it up, $100 off a full body intelligence test. It's good through Sunday. Click on that link. It should attach the discount code automatically as you get through to the end. So you can either start or continue on to your health journey. So thank you so much, Grant, for soloing this talk. This has been a really, really fascinating talk, especially for me, as I am of the female persuasion and I like to understand more about the male biology and male health so I can help take care of my husband. There you go. Reed, I just want to tell you, we should retake the Viome test about every 6 months or so, around that time. Yep, Grant?
What was that? Sorry?
No, so Reed was saying, how often should you retest? And I said around 6 months. It just definitely depends on you.
Yeah, sorry, I was reading as you were talking.
But that is a 6 months on average, and that's about it.
And the reason for that number, we see the microbiome tends to naturally shift around that 6 month, right? And we want to make sure if we're talking about leveraging the microbiome, you want to be shaping it. If we know there's this drift, then we want to be checking in and saying, hey, well, is it drifting the right way or the wrong way?
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
6 month check-in is a great way to keep that in check, see the activity of that microbiome, address it and keep moving forward. And you want to be thinking about this, like you wouldn't just do a workout or an exercise regime and then just stop, right? It's a continual process. The same with your microbiome and your gut health. You got to be checking in, keeping it monitored and moving forward.
Amen, brother. All right. Thank you again, Grant, for this really great talk. Everybody there was hardly any questions. Everybody was very riveted. So thank you again. And thank you for spending your last hour here with us. We really appreciate it. And we will see you again here next month, right? Thanks, Grant.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.